Many people make the argument that Bitcoin has been the asset of this generation. It has been one of the top performers, but it wasn't just Bitcoin that went up. Many tech-related stocks went up as well. Nvidia, for example. What's interesting about Bitcoin's creation is that it happened at the height of the global financial crisis in 2009. Since then, risk on assets tended to appreciate. They tended to go up, measured in pretty much anything. So tech stocks outperformed just monetary base creation. Tech stocks outperformed PE ratios as well. Everything tended to go up and Bitcoin was just a levered bet on that. Here, this is what I mean. At the top, we've got the Nasdaq 100. Or to be more precise, the Nasdaq 100 relative to US money supply. We've got times where valuations expand and we've got times where valuations contract. This here was the .com crash, where tech stocks underperformed the monetary base by 86%. Here is the global financial crisis, where tech stocks underperformed by 57%. And this here at the bottom, that's Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has never really lived throughout a real crisis. And so if you want to be fair, we should compare Bitcoin with other risk-on assets. Yes, Bitcoin made massive gains, but so did Nvidia, for example. Have a look at this. This is Bitcoin relative to Nvidia. It's a chart that starts with Bitcoin's creation. Over here, we've got the crash of Mt. Gox and Silk Road, where Bitcoin underperformed Nvidia by almost 90%. Then we had the bull run where Bitcoin 100x'd, right? It went from $200 to $20,000, but it only outperformed Nvidia by a bit over 1,000%. And then came the ICO crash. The volatility here is massive, right? This is another 79% drop. And so money flows from crypto to AI, back to crypto, back to AI. And the last 4 years, roughly, we have seen AI outperform quite consistently. Now, over the cycles, we still saw Bitcoin doing better than Nvidia, at least from the tops. And so when we draw a parallel to that line, we could make the argument that maybe Bitcoin is now much cheaper than Nvidia, if of course both assets continue to perform similarly. Now, I'm not sure whether or not Bitcoin will suddenly rally from here, but it does appear to me that AI stocks are currently quite hyped. I do not think that Nvidia stock is particularly cheap right now. Now, some people consider Bitcoin to be the new gold, right? Bitcoin being gold 2.0, a very portable version of gold, a gold version that doesn't have as much inflation or as much mining. In general, just a better self-custodied store of value. Now, that story did not fly in the year 2025. Bitcoin underperformed gold by 50%. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and look what happened throughout the cycles. There was a clear move from gold to Bitcoin over time. But since the peak, at the end of 2017, at the beginning of 2018, Bitcoin did not outperform gold that much anymore. I don't really like doing it, but that's how the YouTube game works. That's how the algorithm works. Please give this video a like if what you've seen so far has been useful. Thank you very much. That's, by the way, also the point in time where the number of active addresses on the Bitcoin network peaked. Now, the Bitcoin price went, of course, beyond $20,000, but the activity on chain, the number of active addresses, did not go up. And so maybe 2018 was already the peak in terms of adoption, and everything that we now see in appreciation is simply just the capital base in general expanding. It's simply just more hunger for alternative investments compared to just, say, buying regular stocks. Now, we can clearly see that the outperformance has at least stopped 5 years ago when Bitcoin hit 69K. Yes, we tend to still get higher lows, and maybe Bitcoin is now cheap relative to gold, but only time will tell whether or not this support can actually hold. I have sold a lot of my gold allocation, and that's because of this chart here, right? This is gold relative to the monetary base. This is how I determine whether or not gold is currently expensive or cheap, because gold really doesn't have any good way to get valued. There are no cash flows to discount. There is no objective way to measure risk of the financial system. And so the dotted line, that's just the average ratio of the gold price relative to the US money supply. And currently we are potentially 66% overvalued. And we have seen a turnaround at a very similar level in 2011 already, 14 years ago. Those waves last a very, very long time. You don't want to wait it out to get your purchasing power back. If this was indeed the peak for gold, then it's time to exit rather sooner than later. It's not good to wait for another 20 years or maybe 30 years or maybe even longer than that. Over here, it took 27 years to just get back the same kind of purchasing power measured in the monetary base. Now recently everybody talks about silver. Silver is climbing from one high to the next, and so of course recently Bitcoin underperformed silver. By how much? The answer is 66%. Bitcoin did over the years outperform silver though. That was much more consistent than for gold, and silver might be comparatively hyped right now. It's unclear how much new silver actually gets mined every year. According to the Silver Institute, it's only 2% per annum. That's the same mining rate of gold. I have my doubts though. For example, here, this was the stock to flow model built by Plan B. He puts the flow for silver much higher compared to the flow of gold. That's why gold's market cap should be higher than silver's market cap, at least according to his theory. In the end though, I do believe that the silver price is very much correlated with the gold price. Probably in a similar manner how the Ethereum price is correlated with the Bitcoin price. What we see over here, that's the gold price in yellow and the silver price in gray. The two assets tend to go up and down at the same time. If we are currently not that bullish on gold, then we should also be somewhat careful with silver. Now this here is the silver to gold ratio. So yes, silver did outperform after gold has run by roughly 78%. And yes, we have seen higher prices in the past. Maybe we see another outperformance of roughly 70% from here. But it appears as if there is a long-term negative trend. If there's no long-term negative trend, and really the gold to silver ratio tends to be stable over the decades, then a fair, balanced average price would imply silver to outperform gold by another 21% roughly. In the end, it's all a game of capital rotation. We cannot afford to keep our money in fiat currency for too long because the monetary base expands by roughly 6.8% per annum. We have to invest into something, and ideally we invest in something that currently has a lot of momentum with it, and then we take profit along the way. 2025 has not been great for Bitcoin. 2025 saw mainly inflows into AI, into gold and silver. Will this change in 2026? Potentially. I'm still rather hedged. I still wait for prices to further come down. But if at some point we see inflows into the market again, maybe because stable coins expand again, because people convert from the fiat ecosystem into the crypto ecosystem again, then I will increase my exposure to Bitcoin again. But right now, I still stay bearish. I still keep the current name here of this channel, Bearhard instead of Gerhard. I think it's better to be slightly more pessimistic than the average market participant, especially in crypto. In crypto, there tends to be a lot of euphoria and a lot of optimism. And if we are too optimistic, we can get caught up in the negative side of volatility. And crypto can be very much volatile. If you want to automatically copy trade whatever I personally trade, then feel free to check out the premium membership. We've launched a copy trading vault. That vault made roughly 17%, while Bitcoin fell by 25%. And we are achieving this by doing delta neutral bets. So we bet on falling altcoins, while at the same time Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana tends to outperform most other altcoins. So feel free to check it out. The link is down below. You should also see a link popping up here on the screen. Just click on that. It will lead you to the website. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you on YouTube or see you on Premium. Cheers.